As I said in my email, I asked for questions in advance, so I'll take those first, and then we'll take questions from the audience. So I hope to get as many of you as possible to ask a question. The first question is from Ken. Where's Ken?
David Cameron famously said foreign aid at a minimum of 0.7%. What do you guys think the level should be as a minimum, as Cameron said it, or a maximum? But what percentage do each of you guys think it should be?
I think that relates to about £14 billion that we pay out.
Yeah.
We pay out to some countries that have a nuclear aircraft carriers. I'd love one of those. We haven't got any of those. I think we could cut it down to about £2 billion, and I think it needs to be audited. It needs to go to those who are in desperate need, that have had serious flooding or weather problems, that are in desperate need for this thing. We need to cut out giving money to countries that to fund, I think, an African space girl group or something we funded at one point. We even send money to China. It's ridiculous. We need to cut it back and use that money in this country for whatever, schools, education, hospitals, whatever. It's got to come back into this country. I think sensibly we could cut it back to about £2 billion.
I don't think there's any particular level we should look for. We should only give it to either save lives or to teach people how to stop needing foreign aid. We are borrowing money from countries like, from banks in India and in China and in Russia to give aid to India and China and Russia. You couldn't make it up. We're giving aid in Africa to girl bands who are apparently very much in, but they are foreign aid recipients. This has gone nutty, completely crazy. We're thinking we can buy popularity. Most of it ends up in Swiss bank accounts anyway. Or we are funding the elite in those societies who are invariably corrupt. This whole thing is nuts. Misbegotten nuts. You don't get popular in the world by bribing people. You get it by being good. We should go back to just being good and friendly and not handing out loads of ardosh when people here are suffering as they are. It's gone on long enough. It's got to stop. My minimum level, 0. I wouldn't mind some back.
Freddie has just given more or less the same answer I gave 2 nights ago, and I agree with it fully. There's really nothing between us on that. I think it's important to remember that we do need to have emergency funds should we need to go and help, and we've helped lots of countries around the world. We also have the world's leading insurance industry, so we shouldn't encourage people to be shy of using our great insurance industry. So hopefully people in foreign countries will insure themselves against some of the worst things that can happen. So I would say yes, there's no level. Ideally, where it comes to aid, it's actually symbiotic. We are the country that made trade happen globally. We built the modern world, and what happened was we scratched their backs, they scratched ours. Trade was the key to building the modern world. Some countries even applied to join the British Empire or the Commonwealth, even though they weren't, because they could see how profitable it was for both sides, for everybody. So for that reason, I think that we should not have a level, and we should hope that profit accrues to both sides in all of our trading and relationships with foreign countries.
Alan Breeze, your question you submitted by email, please.
We all know that over the last several years we've had a big decline. And what would you say is the single biggest cause of that decline, in your opinion?
Sorry, are you asking the decline in UKIP or the decline in the country?
The decline in the UKIP vote.
Excuse me, Alan, your question was...
You switched it on me. Told you not to do this.
No, what do you believe is the number one reason that UKIP in the recent past found itself unable to inspire the electorate to lend us their vote?
Well, same thing. That's what I said. It's the same basic.
All right.
Right, I'll get to this. You need a leader who's not only brave, but he can be funny, he's charismatic, And he's more honourable than a certain past leader of ours, or maybe a certain past two. I'm obviously not referring to Gerard Batten yet. He's dead honest. But they've been, Gerard did not take his full salary from the EU. He's a commendable person in these respects. But I would not have said that charisma is his strongest point, nor would he being an honest man. I believe I am a likeable rogue, and that's what UKIP needs at its top. Another likeable rogue here.
In the 2017 leadership hustings, the candidates were asked why UKIP had performed badly in the 2017 general election, and lots of answers were forthcoming, and most of them were nonsense. And the one person who actually answered it correctly was Anne-Marie Waters, and she said that UKIP had done so badly in 2017 because we succeeded in forcing the other parties to promise Brexit. The referendum is the reason why we've been in a trough since 2016. It continues to be that reason. We've seen that Brexit has been delayed for 3 years now with nothing happening at all. But look at the Tory vote in the European parliamentary election that we just saw. They got 9% down into single figures. So they did exceptionally badly too. And the Brexit party stormed it. But the point to understand about this is that our current performance, it doesn't actually indicate that, for instance, Gerard has done badly over the last year. If you look at the votes before Gerard took over, the 2018 local elections and then 2017, we were doing badly then, in fact possibly even worse. We had a low turnout in these European parliamentary elections just now, and we still got more than 500,000 votes, 554,000 I think we got. And in the local elections this year, where we stood, I think we averaged about 16%, which is quite good for us. We didn't stand up candidates, we have to tackle that problem. We all have suspicions as to why that is the case. We need to fix that. But we're not doing as badly as people say. Don't be taken in by it. That's what the media want you to think. If we bounce back, if we work hard, we can do well again. The support is still out there for us. People will come back to us. So take heart, be courageous, get out there and make the point, push our manifesto.
I agree with the first part of what Richard was saying. We have a tradition where whenever we do well, our heads go down and we stop doing it. And then we slump on it. You can see that over everything that we've done. We stopped talking to the people. We stopped talking to them on Brexit, on the European Union. We just stopped talking. We started talking about something completely different. We should have been out there. We was the party that won that referendum, as Richard said. You was the people that did that. You won that. We forced a sitting Prime Minister to take part in a referendum he never ever wanted. But we did that. But once we'd done that, then our minds went off. It went off on a different tangent. We should have carried on with that. We should have been the party that was fighting for Brexit. It should have been us, not the Brexit party. But then Nigel come along with his multi-million pounds Tory money that he's got and wiped the floor. They started talking about Brexit and we was talking about something completely different. In the local elections again, we was out there. And I know I'll say again that you people did very, very well in this area, but in other areas, we never had the candidates, we never had the people out there to canvass, to leaflet, to knock on doors, all the things that you use to win elections. We just didn't have those people out there doing that, and we have to get back to doing that and winning elections again. And until we get sensible policies, winning elections, we are an irrelevance to a lot of people. We was embargoed by the mainstream media. They wouldn't talk to us. They wouldn't have anything to do with us. They just said, "That's it. We're not talking to Brexit. To UKIP. We're going to talk to Brexit." And Nigel, if you look at before that, a year before, Nigel couldn't get on anything. And then, as soon as the European election came, he was on everything. He was on the TV, he was in the papers, he was doing everything. Because they just looked at him and spotlighted him, and we wasn't getting on anything. We wasn't talking to anybody. We have to be a sensible party, a common sense party. We have to get out there and start working again. And you know, I'm sorry, and I keep saying it, we've got to change direction. We've got to start winning elections once again and being a successful party.
Come back to why is that? You say the mainstream media did that, but why? Why did this?
Yes, you may.
Just to kind of think, to answer why.
Because, I'm sorry to say, our leader, Gerard, wouldn't have anything to do with them. He just said, I'm not talking, if you're going to mention Tommy Robinson, I don't want to talk to you. And I had to, when he came to Hull, I had to drag him across the street and say, this guy's all right, I know this BBC guy, I've worked with him for a long while, he's all right. And he wasn't going to do it, he just stopped talking. You need a leader that will talk to the mainstream media. If you haven't got that, then you're not in the mainstream media, and nobody sees you. And many times, I'm out there leafleting, campaigning, and they say, bloody hell, UKIP, I thought you lot had gone. Because that's what they think we're finished. They think we're no longer, it's packed up, it's gone home. But, you know, we've got to get back out there and we've got to get on the media, and the only way that you're going to speak on media is talking common sense to people and getting policies that they will put out there and they will talk to. You know, we've got to be mainstream media again. We've got to get out there, and if the leader of the party is refusing to do it, then I'm sorry you're finished.
Can I ask a question here? Just a second. So it is important to get on the mainstream media, but when you go on the mainstream media, don't apologise. We're UKIP. We're not apologising for anything. Look at our manifesto. I don't apologise for a word in it.
Well, if we'd gone on the mainstream media and apologised, it would have been something. He never even went on it. He refused.
Because nobody
Okay, can we move on then?
We've just got to win, and we must be smart in order to win. And that means we must think, plan, and act, and do so with courage and conviction. And then they will have to speak to us, because we will dictate the agenda there. But if we just give in, then we are finished. We cannot allow ourselves to be ambushed again and again on mainstream media. We have to snatch the initiative from them.
Simple question.
Stuart, I'm doing these first, if it's okay, and I'll come back to the audience.
Yeah, he wants to ask something about this.
Oh, do you?
Probably directed.
Farage has the centre ground. You're not going to get that plaque. You're not going to get that plaque. It's gone.
Farage is very, very good at what he does. There is nobody better on the media than Nigel. He's absolutely brilliant. He's a shyster, he's a snake oil salesman.
Yes, we know what he is. You need to be attacking this man. Do you know what we did?
And we do.
We made a mistake here. We gave him a free ride, right? UKIP took the heat for him, right? We were racist, we were bigots, and all the rest of it. And he got away with it, he's made a connection, right? If you have any dirt or anything on Farage, you need to attack him because he does it to us and he's ruthless.
This man is Teflon. This man is being investigated by all in the European Union on multi-thousand pound worth of fraud.
Keep at it, don't give in.
He gets away. It's frustrating because the man gets away with everything. We know what he's been up to. He just gets away with it.
Yes, and so do I.
If I could pin him down, I would have done it, and we've tried. And on that thing about the skinheads, the thugs, the tattooed thugs, the rest of it, I was at Westminster that day when he made that comment, right? He was at the end of the Westminster Street with us surrounded by the media making that comment. In the middle was Remainers. Down that end was Kippers. Yes. He wouldn't walk through the Remainers because he's bottleless. He's always been bottleless. He wouldn't walk through that. I walked through the Kippers, and it's people that I've known for many, many years. Good people. They're not tattooed skinheaded thugs. I'm tattooed. I've got my parachute wings and I've got my commando dagger. You know, I'm a British Army thug. He would not walk through them Remainers, and he made that comment, and I wrote a letter to him. I called him a hypocrite. I call him a prat, I call him everything I could. I'm off his Christmas card list, but the man is Teflon.
Well, I sat listening to what GMT said.
Right, can
He's dragging thugs, criminals, yeah?
Right,
And lunatics.
I will answer this now in your central plan. I don't agree with going for the man, going ad hominem, because it's simply not productive. Yeah, makes us feel good, but we don't have to feel good. We want to win. So take him on what he will not touch. He will not touch the links between immigration and a whole host of things, which include medical services. We have to time your phone call to the doctors to 1 second after 8:30 or 8 o'clock. That's preposterous. To crime, to our declining transport systems, to overpressure. So all people dying in their during are the crime. He won't touch the fact that that is linked to immigration. And that is cowardice. Now, no, he hasn't. He is not in the Brexit party. He hasn't. He's done it when he was with us in UKIP. Right now, we take the ground from him because immigration and the health service were very high, I believe, in the top 3 places on what concerns people, and crime. The link between immigration and crime is terrible. Right now, we just lost control of our borders.
Look, Hadrian's Wall is just up the road from here. We need a bloody big Hadrian Wall all over the south of England right now until they can get the people working for what used to be the border agency and is now a bunch of scoundrels and scallywags who just let any toe rag in. I've said so. What are you going to do about it? Mr. Brand, Mr. Hooper?
Let me answer the first part of the question.
We've always talked against him. I've done it in the Parliament, I've done it on TV. You know, Nigel is Nigel. Nigel has spoken about the things that Freddie was talking about. He has done that in the past, but as he said, he did it via UKIP. He's got other things to do now. He's got the Brexit party. He's got Donald Trump to look after. He's going to push the Brexit party as far as he can. Come October 31st, Boris will do the job, the Brexit party's finished. Nigel will toddle off to America into Donald world, and that's where he'll go. But we've got to be open to allow all those people that join the Brexit party to come back into this party, because that's their natural home, that's where they will come to. The ones that are coming to us, some of those others, Ian Widdicombe and the rest of it, will just cross the floor and go straight to the Tory party, where they came from. It's a Tory-like party. We're not complaining. I'm stating what will happen. I'm stating what will happen. That's what's going to happen. Yes, I'd like to know more. Thank you, Bill.
Right, thank you. Richard,
Go on, Richard. You are.
Thank you. Neil Hamilton said about Nigel Farage. Let me just say, I have great respect for Nigel Farage for all he did for this party and this country in campaigning to get us our referendum and to help us win it. And I'll always be grateful to him for that. But Neil Hamilton said about Nigel that he had to be the bride at every
Wedding and the corpse at every funeral. I have a nickname for him, which is the Spiv Emperor. because Nigel left this party. He could easily have resuscitated it. He could have stepped in. He could have actually joined up with all of us, all of you. We've worked hard for the same things that he's worked hard for. So why did he leave instead of taking the reins in UKIP again and turning it, putting his effort back into it and bringing it back? Why? The answer is simple. The answer is simple. He wants a fiefdom. He wants a fiefdom where he has perfect control and he is the fief. And what he does is he installs people as candidates on his say-so. And if he meets someone at dinner that he likes, he thinks, I might bestow upon them a bit of advantage. Oh look, there's some councillors over there belonging to UKIP. Are they still going? Oh, let's see what we can do to poach them. And he's poached lots of people from this party, and many of them came over to the Nigel party, having been poached, expecting all of the things they were promised, and discovered that they weren't on the list after all, and that their MEP seats weren't secure after all. And so his party, I'm afraid to say, is not a democratic structure at all. It's a bit rich me saying that, bearing in mind that Gerard Batten isn't sitting here and wasn't allowed to stand in this election. But it is still the case that you lot are going to vote, hopefully, for one of us. And we do still try to be democratic in some measure. And I hope that if you elect me, I'm going to see if I can find ways to make the NEC a bit more democratic than it has been. So that's it. So that's the difference. And so in other words, don't leave this party. This party is democratic. Don't be taken in by a party that is just a fiefdom. And that's the way Nigel always wanted it, and that's what it is. And probably in the long run, that will not stand that party in good stead, because ultimately only one man is making all the decisions.
Okay.
Stuart, from your list of 8 questions, please tell which one you'd like first.
Oh, you're supposed to.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7,
I have
8.
to take you to task, Mr. Chairman, that you haven't welcomed the 3 candidates to the historic grounds of the Duchess of, what's her name?
That's why you did
that her great-grandparents went down the pits. As many of the people here tonight, their parents and some of them actually went down the pits, and grandparents went down the pits. Gentlemen, you are in the heartland of UKIP. Yes. Never mind London, never mind the southwest or the southeast. Fantastic efforts of the people in this room and friends and members of the people in this room. Had a huge success in the local elections in Sunderland, coming second, winning 3 seats and coming second in Gloucester, in Hartlepool, Redcar, North Tyneside. We have last year, North Tyne mayor elections took over 20,000 votes. Really from a party that's dead and buried. My question to you, gentlemen, is I am sick and tired of listening to a leader of this party who hasn't the strength of character to take control of an interview on mainstream media. How are you going to do it?
You may not take from the accent, but I'm a Yorkshireman, so I'm from the north as well. I'm probably the only one here that is from the north. Yes, mining communities.
What was the question?
Sorry?
What was the question? What was the short version of the question?
It's the short version.
The last take control away when you take control of an interview on the media.
Okay.
Like that.
So I would say, I'm from the north. If I was a leader, the party headquarters would move north. It would come up to where I am in the north, because I believe that is where the votes are. We need to take control of the north and to the Labour votes. That's what I truly believe. That's what we need to be doing. It's always been London-centric. We need to come up north. And I'm from a fishing community, so we're on par with the miners. 2 hardest jobs in the world. Big loss of life doing the jobs. So I understand where you're coming from on that. Media, as I've said before earlier tonight, I've done lots of media right across the world. America, across Europe, and with Russia today, everything. I've done a lot. I've been on it. I've been on Politics Lunchtime. I've done Politics Sunday. I've done everything. So I've been there. You can see my track record. It's there. It's to be seen. It can be looked at. You know, I've got nothing to be ashamed of. I've been there, done it, and seen it.
You win media interviews by winning them. Simple as that. You outwit them, you have courage, you stick to what's right, you make concessions when needed, but briefly, you correct them in their errors, because they have their bias against us based on their fear of us, and their fear that we are actually talking the truth, not the truth that the BBC makes up each morning when they decide how to spin the news. The BBC isn't the only enemy. There are a whole lot of broadsheet newspapers and red tops as well, and of course there's Sky and plenty of others. Now, I honestly believe that the word media nowadays, as applied to mainstream media, it is actually a singular noun, because they act as if they're just one. We treat them as if they're just one, not multiple. So the media refers to one monolithic group who are absolutely dedicated to distorting the news, to making up the news, to dictating the agenda, to twisting it to their benefits, and not to give us a fair crack at the whip. So you want a leader who will actually take them on and beat them at it, catch them at it. When they're doing it, say, stop, stop. That's where you're going wrong. That's what you just said is inaccurate. Or why have you left this out? And not let them dictate the agenda. Once they do it, they've got you on the road. Now, it's quite hard to do this first. It's increasingly easy when you start getting them scared of us. With me as a leader, they would be scared. I've stopped getting the media calls now, entirely. They simply don't want to take it on if they're going to lose. Currently, unfortunately, Gerard has not been the most effective person. He's a good man of integrity, but he has not done himself or the party a service. He wouldn't come to the hustings which I organised for him in London or other ones. I believe he has fought for us and for Britain for 27 years. He's now possibly just tired. I don't speak to him or promise to speak for him. I will always speak up for him, but he needs to move aside and not try to control the narrative anymore. We need a fresh face and a fresh start who will win. Win with the media, stop them winning. This can only be done by out-talking them, something which is easy for me, and outsmarting them, which I will humbly attempt to do.
The most important thing to remember is that you're actually trying to speak to your audience. Don't waffle. Answer the question. Don't retreat and call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
I may be a southerner, but I understand how people in the north like to speak and be heard. That's it. Don't waffle. Call a spade a spade. Remember your audience.
Okay, question from my pop. Would you like to refresh your memory?
No.
Your memory?
No. First, can I just say an apology? I think I might have went a little bit too strong with Mike there before. And hats off to you. I didn't realise you were an ex-veteran. Veteran, sorry. I have got a couple more questions for you, but we'll have to leave that for the time being. But
this one starts.
Where's the target audience?
UKIP's target.
I know where my question is, but you're not a teacher. Where do you see UKIP's target audience in terms of recruitment membership?
All over, from the young to the old. Our message is the same. Our message is we want to live in a country where we are safe against crime, where we are happy, where we are prosperous, the economy is important, where there are social values which matter. We can pass on clear messages to our children without cultural Marxism and other things taking over and trying to teach 5-year-olds about 43 genders or other bits of just complete nonsense and twaddle which they made up. We want to have a country which is great in the world again. We want all these things, and we want a UKIP that delivers this. Anyone who wants any of those things is a potential target audience of UKIP. We've got to persuade them about this, and we persuade them with words, not with throwing brickbats, or for that matter, throwing bouquets. We do it by being popular, accurate, funny occasionally, and brave. And we can do this. Give us the tools in UKIP and we will finish the job. Ideas like this make our appeal universal in the UK, so I do not see any particular group. I was asked on Islam TV, no one else would take this up. Islam TV wanted to ask me, why would this was actually their accent, it was very insulting. Why would any Muslim vote for your party? Delivered exactly like that. I smiled and I said, because the Muslim, being intelligent, would want his children to be happy, he would want to be prosperous, he'd want to be safe, he'd want to be in a country where law applied to all. That's why he would vote for UKIP. Are you, sir, a racist? That's what I answered. That's our appeal. Our appeal includes the many, many millions of Muslims. There are about 5 to 6% of the population. We're not discriminating, and this is common ground between all the candidates here. I'm not speaking for myself only. We're not discriminating on race, religion, any of these other things. We are talking about values, improving life, not just for us, but for our children and grandchildren, and setting out core values which are important. I'm a physicist. Richard has told you, as he is. I'm a physicist too, and bringing up my daughter, physics is all about measuring things, and I told my daughter that all the most important things in the world are things you can't measure, they're things you feel inside. That sort of society, where people think that way, is a society filled with potential UKIP voters. And we just need to get that message across. We will. Thank you.
Our target audience, it used to be the love that dare not speak its name used to mean something else. But now it means patriotism. Our target audience are people who love Britain and who love Britain's traditions.
Hear, hear.
That's us. We need to make Orwell fiction again. But nobody's talked about how specifically you can actually reach that target audience. And I have actually written some software for the party, free of charge, and used it at a local election 2 months ago. And the software enables people to go around, canvass effectively, tell effectively on polling day, and go and knock on doors in the evening to get our voters out. And after polling day, it means that we've learned a lot about who actually wants to vote for us. And that's going to put us in touch with people that want to support us, that want to join us, and will help to grow the party again. So that's the solution. It's a technical thing. I'm going to provide it. It's especially easier for me to provide it if I'm the leader of the party, because I won't have to argue with all the others about whether we should do it or not.
You won't have to argue with me, that's
The Orwell fiction again was my
took it from me 3 days ago.
You have a pass on Mike across the road. I don't take it personally, Mike. It's, you know, politicians can get everything thrown at you. I agree with what both of these people have said tonight. It is about appealing to people that want to be British, that want to have British standards and values. It's about going out there, and again, I say one of our main targets should be the Labour areas of the north, because I think we can do very, very well there. But it's getting the policies, again, it's policies, getting the policies that people will vote for and will support. And we are a party that can do that. We're a party that when we are good, we're bloody good. You know, and if we can get out there and convince the people out there that we are a party for them, they will come to us and they will join us, whatever age. You know, in the past we've had Liberals, we've had Conservatives, we've had Labour, we've had a lot, they've all come to us because they've seen us as a party that they can work with, they can defend, they can go out there and canvass and leave for. And I think we can do that again, we can appeal to everybody. And if we can do that, if we manage that, we will be an electoral threat once again.
I have a question here from Ian Howes, who's asked me to put it forward for him. He is in the audience, he's asked me to read it out. It is essentially the same question from Stephen Buick and Stephen Bailey. So if the two gentlemen don't mind, I'll roll it into one to save repetition. The question is to ask whether the panel believe the removal of Gerard at such a late stage and in such a way that the winner's authority, the winner of this election's authority, would be seriously diminished and unable to function with confidence.
I think in the case of Mike or Freddie, that may well be true, but I've asked Gerard to be my deputy. So at least if you elect me to be the leader, Gerard certainly will be listened to very carefully by me and have plenty of authority in our dealings. So don't worry about that. It's unfortunate that it's had to be like this. I'm not responsible for that. I've done my best to support Gerard in every way I could, but in the end, they wouldn't let him stand.
Look, this was I can say that all of the candidates, and Ben and Helena, when they was here, had nothing whatsoever to do with it, because there is rumours that we was in the room ticking the box. None of us had anything whatsoever to do with it. It was a very tough decision taken by the NEC that you people voted for. It was a democratic decision by them within the room. There was some for, some against. So it was democratically done. I've always supported the NEC, I will support the NEC. And you've got to remember that the NEC are directors of this. This is a company. They are the directors, and if you sue the company, you sue these people. So they've got to look and make sure that what's happening within the party is legally, and it's a sound decision. They made that decision, very tough decision. Piers Walcott has had a lot of stick off it, and I think that's totally wrong. The man shouldn't be given the grief that he's getting. It was a decision taken by them, and I stand by that decision.
Gerard Batten has been a friend for 6 or 7 years now. He's been my MEP for 15 years. I respect and admire him. When I was asked what is my opinion of him as a person, I said, were my daughter to be a teenager again, and I, for some reason, had to leave her with a leader of UKIP for a week when I was away or incapacitated, it would be a no-brainer who I would leave her with, and that would be Gerard Batten. Now, that's a personal matter for all of those of you who are parents. You'll understand the reason for me choosing that. I would continue, as leader, I would continue to consult and speak to Gerard, of course. It's an absolute no-brainer. So I have taken the decision not to give any declarations about who I would appoint under my leadership, other than in fact in the case of Richard, who I would put in charge of a lot of electronic communication and design and so on. That's simply because I am his regional chairman in London, and I know how good he is on that. We also have overlapping skills here, and there's no point having 2 people doing the same job. A ship has to have 1 captain here, though. Under me, I have not said who would be the deputy leader, or indeed who would be the chairman. I would choose the people best suited for the job, because it starts leading to corruption when you don't. I'm afraid that's often the first slippery step. There is no reflection on either candidate on either side of me. I'm sure they would generally share those views as well. So there is no suggestion. I would not listen to Gerard, seek his advice, seek his counsel, maybe occasionally just slow down Freddie, which I've heard more than once. One would listen to him. So this is not a question of pushing him aside. I reiterate what has been said. None of us is responsible for that decision. It was a majority decision of 6-3. It seems to be an official leak out, since no one has denied it, from the NEC. 2-1 decision. I'm sorry if you don't like it. It took me entirely aback. I was astounded by it. Thank you.
Next question, Harry, is from Daniel Stapleton. Daniel, where's Daniel?
Yeah. In the past 18 months, we've had an influx of lots of young people joining the party. They came active in our branches, where there wasn't any really representation before, and even stood for councillors. They were inspired to join by Carl Benjamin and Mr. Batten. They've expressed concerns from the NEC's decision and were worried about what's happening next. Quite vocal that they might leave the party. What can you say to reassure them that UKIP will still represent them?
Well, I hope they don't leave the party. I hope they see that the party is going to carry on, whichever candidate wins, and whichever direction the party takes. You know, the YIs are very important to us. You know, they are the future of this party. So I just hope that they see, you know, whichever member gets it, whichever the candidate gets it, that the party's going to carry on, and I hope they just carry on supporting the party.
I'll specifically refer to the Carl Benjamin part of it. I sat next to Carl Benjamin at dinner a few days ago. I've had many happy conversations with him. We have a suitably competitive relationship. He likes excelling. He's an actual public speaker. I think it would be crazy to lose him. He is more than willing to. In fact, he said he looks. I suspect that this has a lot to do with his viewer count. Some of you may remember an impromptu interview I gave outside Parliament. When walking around, I saw Carl Benjamin there. Gerard and Lord Pearson had just spoken. I butted in and I gave him 3 minutes, which gave him something like 500,000 views it got to, where I ended with, and now turn off the cameras and I'll tell you what I really think. We need people like him who will inspire young people. He reminds me of me as I was maybe It seems like 200 years ago, but say 30 years ago. He's full of energy, he's full of bounce, he's got a lot of courage, he sometimes gets it wrong, he's got an absolutely charming smile, he's very, very hard to faze, and he and I are probably going to have a debate in 2 or 3 days on whether freedom of speech has limits. Callum, that's still on, isn't it? Yes, it is. Good. And then you can have some good fun. Freddie versus Carl Benjamin. My money's on me.
Well, the first thing that we need to do to keep young people interested in UKIP and our politics is listen to them. And they are full of absolutely wonderful ideas, and I hope many of you have seen some of the things that they upload, things like Kipper Stream, obviously Carl Benjamin. There's loads of things on YouTube. Young UKIPers are actually publishing amazing material, fascinating material, great conversations. So we need to listen to them, and we need to give them responsibility. We need to give them roles in the party, and YI does that very well. But we also need, above all, to form what I talked about earlier, the Boomer Millennial Alliance. It skips a generation. The generation between the youngsters in the party and the older people in the party, they're a lost generation. They just believe in a sort of Tory Blairite socialism that none of us really agrees with. But the Zoomers and the Millennials coming through, they've seen through that. They've been so Good man, good man. You buck the trend. So obviously, there are few, but you know how hard it is amongst people of your own age, because you're a small minority amongst people of your own age that will talk about the sorts of things that UKIP talks about and that we all believe in. But the great thing is, these youngsters coming through, they've been so abused by their propagandist teachers, teaching them all of this nonsense that they're rejecting. They're rejecting it, and they're looking to a generation above their parents' generation for the wisdom that older people have from their longer lives. And so we have to build this bridge, and the bridge is the Boomer Millennial Alliance, the Boomer Zoomer Alliance. And it's working already, and it's going to be great. And we're going to really, really scare, I'm afraid to say, your peers, your generation, who aren't going to know what's hitting once they find that youngsters are starting to reject that politics in big numbers.
And that concludes all bar one of the written questions, which I'm going to leave to the end. If I've missed anybody out, I apologise, that appears to be all the emails I've got. So I'll ask to take them from the floor. First of all, Kay, would you be the first from the floor?
Yes, there is talk, if there were to be a general election in the next few months, there is talk on talk radio, LBC, things like that, of pro-Brexit and anti-Brexit parties providing some sort of alliance whereby they would stand certain candidates down in some areas, you know, so as not to split the vote as such. How does each of the candidates feel about that from a UKIP perspective?
This is a difficult one because at some points we have to look at individual constituencies by constituency. In many cases it won't make a difference. Generally we're a political party. In order to be relevant we need to field candidates, because we're not just fielding them for the purpose of this election, we're fielding it for the purpose of other elections. People get very angry if they don't have a box to tick. Further, how does one bargain with an entity that has no real structure? We know which entity we're talking about here. Who are we bargaining with, and what will we get in return? In a general election, there is a general terror that we're going to let in Jeremy Corbyn. That is a terror that I share. Well, how much are we willing to give up in order to give in to terror? I don't want to give in to terror at all. I want us to do the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing means temporary sacrifice for long-term gain. So in this one, I may be going against my logical self, which talks about just this election, but we need to look beforehand, because the press will have yet another thing to hit us with then. This is longer-term planning than just this election. If indeed, through some mishap, Jeremy Corbyn and those wonderful gang of North London hoodlums take over and install themselves in Downing Street, Well, Labour, they'll have a few years, they might even have a full term, they might have 5 years, but then Labour will be out for 20 years. It's true that we will probably we'll have to reinvent money after that. So I'm afraid the question answers nuance to it. My general instinct is not to give in. We do feel, because we have to look beyond the current election, because we will be told we are accepting our own irrelevance otherwise. We have to think how it will be spun against us untruthfully. We will not get any of the credit for doing the right thing. It will be interpreted as cowardice. None of us here is a coward.
Let's buckle down and take more votes from Jeremy Corbyn than we take from any other party.
I think there are going to be some deals done. I can't see the Tories doing deals with Nigel. I don't think that'll happen. I know people are talking about that. I know the Remainers are putting together a group that will maybe stand and try and win seats. So I can see them doing deals. Whether we do deals with the Brexit party, I don't think so. We're a political party, we should stand in every seat. I don't think we would get a fair crack at the whip. I think they would dictate, because they've got a lot more money than we have, they would dictate what seats they want, and they will be the better seats, the ones with the small majorities, and we would get the rubbish ones, which we ain't got a cat and a chance of winning anyway. So I don't think we should do a deal with Nigel. I think we should stand fair and stand in the seat. Hopefully, I'm hoping against hope that we don't go into a general election. I think Boris won't want that anyway. I'm hoping we don't, because if we do, we're in stuck, because our finances are not that good. So let's hope it doesn't happen. If it does, we do what we always do, and we pull together and we try and get people into seats, and we try and pull the money together to fight those campaigns. Even if it's just, we did it years ago, we had paper candidates, just to put a name on the ballot paper. Because what people always said was, I would have voted for UKIP, but there wasn't on the ballot paper. Our name has to be on that ballot paper. And if it's just a paper candidate, then so be it. But let's hope we can, if we do have to fight that, we can get some money together to fight it. We are the party for Brexit, and that's what the next general election will be fought on. It will be fought on the European Union and Brexit. And let's hope we can get the right candidates in the right seats and fight that and keep battling for the Brexit. Boris is going to do the job. I think we'll be out on October 31st. Once we're out of there, I think we'll dump Boris and get rid of him and put another Prime Minister in. But, I don't think we shouldn't do any deals with Nigel. I don't trust him, never trust him. The man's a snake oil salesman. We would end up with the rough end of the stick.
I have a question, but first of all, can I just highlight the discussion what the party's actually done with Gerald Batten. This man has got views ways to sit with tonight. The other question that I've got for you is, what's your views on what the House of Lords and MPs are trying to do to prevent the voting in Brexit?
I share your disgust at what's happened. I hope I made that clear. It's disgraceful. It's not democratic, and it should be the members of this party that decide whether Gerald Batten is worthy to lead us or not the NEC. So that's that. Sorry, what was the second point? The House of Lords. The last 3 years have been an absolute disgrace. Shocking scenes in our politics in this country, with frankly a bunch of little gangsters standing in the way of what the British people have voted for. It's just a disgrace, and they've tried to dress it up as every kind of difficulty that they could imagine, and all this fake paraphernalia about Brexit. And we know from Gerald Batten's plan, he wrote 2 books on this subject, and he's been very clear always about the right way to leave. And he's been one of the best voices on this subject for a long time. And we know that we could simply have left, and if we had left, right now, I'm certain that we would be better off even than we are now. I I think we'd be well on the way to recovery from the abuse
relationship that countries have with Brussels. And we're not the only one, don't forget. There's several other countries that are really suffering because of this terrible Soviet-style, plutarchy, where unelected people rule over us. You know, the Parliament is voted for, but it actually has zero power to actually generate law. The Commission gets 0 votes, and our Parliament has rejected 0 EU regulations, directives that are being sent down to us. So there's just no democracy. It's a cargo cult democracy, designed to appear like a democracy when actually being nothing of the sort. And we've got to get out. It's absolutely disgraceful. And the fact that our Parliament has become a puppet to that terrible undemocratic Parliament and doesn't have the guts to actually walk away from it, even though the people have given the green light and the permission to do so, is an embarrassment and a shame to this country.
I think what this whole farce over the last 3 years has clearly shown, and let's face it, the majority of those people sitting in Westminster in 2017 stood on the platform of supporting and fighting for the people's vote in 2016. They all stood there and said, well, we will honour that people's vote, and they've all gone against it. What it clearly shows is that those people in Westminster do not represent the people of this country. What it clearly shows is the first past the post system doesn't work anymore for this country, and it has to be an alternate vote system of some description. There is a movement there, or a group now called Make Votes Count. I think as a party, we should get on board with those people and work with them to change the voting system and to an alternate vote system. We would have the Lib Dem support, the Greens support, all of the small minor parties would all support that. They all want a change in the first past the post. So we need to get on board with that as well. But it clearly shows that these people don't represent us. It's an absolute disgrace that they can sit in that Parliament and do everything they can to stop Brexit. And I've seen them when I was in Brussels and Strasbourg, coming over and speaking to the people in the higher echelons of the Parliament and doing deals. And the Labour Party was right at the forefront of this, of trying to do deals to stop Brexit. They've done everything they can, everything. Theresa May basically went to Brussels and laid on her back and said, tickle my belly. That's all she did. She went there, never offered anything. It's come out this week that she never offered anything. She never offered to walk away on WTO. If you go into a deal, you must go into that deal and say, well, yeah, I want this deal, but if you're not prepared to give me what I want, I'm prepared to walk away. She never did that. She said WTO was always off the table. It was never going to happen. So they just run rings around it. Michel Barnier was a very, very hard negotiator. I wish we'd had somebody like Michel Barnier working for us, because we'd have had a deal. We'd have been out by now. It's taken 3 years. And 3 years down the line, to say in the last 11th hour, well, we're going to start looking at what a WTO will look like. Well, surely when you start off, you say, this is what deal we want, and this is what it'll look like if we walk away on a WTO. They never did that. They went in there and just rolled over and let them do whatever they wanted. She was a terrible Home Secretary, and she was an absolute disgrace as a Prime Minister. And if they put her in the House of Lords, if they put Theresa May in the House of Lords, it's an absolute disgrace. The woman is a traitor to this country. And those people that support her, those people like Philip Hammond and the rest of them, that talk down this country regularly, saying how bad the country is, and we are now going, what is it today? We're going to be £30 billion worse off. Well, if we are £30 billion, we're £9 billion in the profit, because we're paying £39 billion to Brussels. So WTO has to be on the table. I don't want to see us leave this country, leave the European Union with no deal. I want a tariff-free deal. And if we walked in and said, we want a tariff-free deal, and if you're not prepared to give us that, we'll walk away. If we'd have said that, if she'd have said that and been tough on it, we'd have been out by now. It's an absolute disgrace. Houses of Parliament don't represent us. House of Lords is a complete joke. there's no way whatsoever that they should. We need a second house, yes, but it shouldn't be the system that they've got at the moment. You know, you've got the people like John Prescott. You'll never see me in Amy until his wife Pauline said, "I want to be in there," and then he was there on Monday morning looking for the job. But you know, these are the people that represent us now in House Lords. It's a disgrace. The politics in this country at the moment is an absolute disgrace. These people do not represent the working man and woman in this country.
That's actually a hard act to follow. John Prescott, we should be aware, has bulimia, except he's forgot the second part of it, throwing up. We've talked about Theresa May here. This dreadful creature was not a captain of SS Great Britain. She was, in the words of Neil Hamilton, a barnacle attached to the hull. She just went along. Now, only a mad woman would take no deal off the table until negotiations are over. That's just the actions of a lunatic. Perhaps a traitor as well, but definitely a lunatic, because it's obviously mad. Now, 85% approximately of votes cast in the snap general election, in the general election of 2015, 85% of votes were cast for parties that generally supported leaving the EU. Supposedly at that stage, this included the big parties. That was 2017. Earlier on, we had won the referendum with a huge majority. The vote for one side, 17,410,741 people who voted, plus me, to make 742, who voted to leave the EU, was the largest single vote to any outcome ever held in the United Kingdom. And this lot of rotters didn't want to follow it. 80% plus of MPs approved the 29th of March as being the exit date. They knew in advance they were then going to scupper it. Now this load of scoundrels here, Ollie Robbins at least is safe, certainly very safe, even if we were to get retrospective legislation in, which is abhorrent to me, we shouldn't, to allow the death penalty, he certainly could not be hanged. His neck prevents it. Now I would not certainly suggest that this is a good course of action, but this level of anger has been produced because we have been utterly and totally betrayed. Now, some of you in this room, probably not too moved by this rhetoric, but you have received emails from me where I analysed the 49 consecutive mainstream votes in Parliament on a spreadsheet attached to my email, which looked through each of them and judged each MP on his voting record. That has been used, usually within conservative local associations, to get shot of bad Conservative MPs. And here, the vast majority of Conservative MPs are bad. There's about 25 of them who voted the right way, all the rest have voted the wrong way. There was Kate Hoey who voted the right way, and the DUP, bless their souls, voted the right way all the time. And all the rest of them were rascals. They either didn't vote at all or cowards who didn't turn up. These were 49 votes analysed. On the 29th of March, when Nigel had some event in Parliament Square and Gerard was outside Downing Street, I was up in Gerrard's Cross, in fact, in Beaconsfield, making damn sure that the Conservatives' last trick to keep Dominic Grieve in by changing the venue of their meeting at the last minute from the bull to the bell or the bell to the bull. Yes, they did that. This is to make sure that Dominic Grieve was not voted out by his local Conservative association. This, we succeeded by 180 votes to 130. His own local association voted to get rid of him as an MP. We have to take the fight to them. Hopefully now this has frightened them and they will not have a general election. These things are linked. They know lots of them will be kicked out of office and therefore they won't have it. Because we are frankly not ready as a party right now for a general election. As Mike has conceded, we are not exactly flush with readies. We need to build more before a general election comes. If it comes, we will fight it. But I prefer it if it didn't happen soon. Thank you.
Freddie, have you brought any boots?
Have I, sorry?
Have you brought any boots? You should try.
Books have been written by me, but if on line 307 of my brief CV, you'll find a list of them. In fact, brief CV.
Freddie's CV comes in 3 volumes. It's one of the best works of fiction.
Nonsense!
Just apologise because we have to leave. you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
This question is maybe inspired by Mr. Green's interview with Mr. Benjamin the other day, but it is very much directed to all three of you.
Louder, please. Excuse me.
This question is directed, inspired mainly by Mr. Brain from his interview with Mr. Benjamin the other day, but it is very much directed to all three of you, so I want to know your stances on this. What is your stance regarding zero-hour contracts and the way that large businesses are very much, especially in Newcastle and this sort of like area of the country, using it to manipulate young people who are going into work?
You want to start? Give me your version.
Zero hours contracts are an abomination. It's a completely imbalanced labour market. It's a buyer's market, not a seller's market. This is linked again to the great big elephant in the room, immigration, uncontrolled mass immigration. While it is there, you're going to have similar things, and trying to outlaw it is useless. You can't outlaw things like that because they just find ways around it using smart accountants and smart lawyers. So we must fix the underlying problem in that the labour market is completely imbalanced in terms of powers now in favour of large employers. It's not good. I am in a way, I suppose I'm selfish here. I'm glad I'm not a young person right now, but I do have a daughter who is a young person. It's completely outrageous. It's got to be stopped, and the way to stop it is build that Hadrian Wall there, get it out of the EU, and start enforcing an immigration policy that bites.
I agree with Freddie. I mean, during that interview, as I hope you will recall, I pointed out that there are some people who do like being on 0 hours contracts. It does give them a flexibility to do part-time work. So let's not pretend that everybody who's on a 0 hours contract is being manipulated or, in this way by companies that are really abusing their power in the market, as Freddie has just correctly described. But it's also important to remember that one of the reasons why companies look to these sorts of contracts, because quite often companies bear responsibilities when they employ people that are disproportionate, and labour law has become a burden to many companies, and it's important to look at how that actually is distorting the marketplace for labour. But as Freddie said, if we had our borders properly controlled and proper control of labour in this country, then I don't think it would be nearly as big a problem. People would be able to find work, and don't forget that an employment relationship is a relationship between someone who's prepared to pay you and take risk and the person who decides whether he or she wishes to be employed in that way. And that's how it should really be, an agreement between two parties, two people. So from that point of view, I don't think, I agree with you that it is abused, but you must be careful not to take away a mode of working that suits some people.
Contracts in Greece. They love 0 hour contracts in Greece because they haven't anybody work there anyway, any kind of contract.
Yeah, I agree with Richard. There are some people, yes, that want a 0 hour contract. But I think, as Richard said, it's going to be by choice. If you want it, it's not going to be foisted on you by the employer. And it's because of mass immigration. Well, it's immigration, mass migration. Let's get that right. And, these people, 500 million people, that's what the poll that they've got to choose from. And that's held down the hourly rate of many people. It's compressed that. So people are not getting the wage rise that they should be. And we can only stop that by having strong immigration laws and what I believe bringing in what we've said for a long, long time, an Australian-style immigration policy where we bring in the skills that we need. And let's not forget many, many Labour councils across this country use 0 hour contract. They started stopping them now, but they were big proponents of them. But we need to bring in people with the skills that we need. And I've always defended people because I've never ever believed that families, whole families sitting on Social Security are there by choice. Yeah, there are the rogue families that never want to work. But I think there's lots of families and lots of people to sit on social security then if it's soul destroying. I've been on social security. Many times, when the kids were young and I've been out of the way and I've been on social security. It's soul destroying. I don't believe this rhetoric that, they're all lazy and they don't want to work, so we've got to bring people in from Europe. I don't believe that. I think there are many people in this country that can take these jobs, that want these jobs. And we need to address that, and we need to stop a massive migration coming into this country. And we need to stop 0 hours. And, unless you want that, if that's what you want, if you want to be 0 hours and it suits your lifestyle, then so be it. But it shouldn't be foisted on you by an employer saying, well, it's either 0 hours or nothing.
Okay. We've had over our hour of questions. So there's just one that I said I'd hold back to the end, written question. The last one before I asked the candidates to make their closing remarks. Came from Councillor Deputy. The question, gentlemen, is, if you don't win the leadership election, is there any of the other candidates you will not work with, and why? I thought I'd leave it to the end. Who wants to start?
This is not original. This gets asked every night. I know Richard, I know Freddie, the other two. Well, Ben's not here now. I know them all. I've known them for quite a few years. I would work with them, yes. I would work with anyone within the party. I think we've all got the same aims of this party. We've all got the goodwill of this party at heart. And there's a lot of us and a lot of people in this room that's put many, many years into this party. So I would work with anybody. But I think, I'll just go a little bit off there, I think we've got a lot of talent within the party that we could bring on into spokesman's roles. So I think there's a lot of talent there that we should bring on. But I would work with anyone.
Me too. This thing's bigger than any one of us. To give a fuller answer, I'd liken this decision to a decision made, let's say, by one of our fighter pilots 70, 80 years ago, flying a Hurricane maybe from Biggin Hill or something like that. Maybe flying from one of the airfields up here where the Nazis used to come over from Norway, and their relatively long-range bombers, big wing applied. Let's imagine their ankles were bitten by a dog while they were waiting there for the bell to go out. They're having their tea. They knew they had to drop everything and run for that fighter plane and get up in the air to stop the bombers before they came over. And I'm not allowed to make jokes about the Fokkers and the Fokkers and other things because Douglas Bader made it a long time ago. If that little dog's the one to do, snaps at your ankles and bites you, do you flounce off the field? No. The analogy here isn't comparing any of my worthy opponents here to dogs. It's the state of mind. It's absolutely not. It's only just occurred to me that some of you might think I was taking them off, which I never would. What I am saying is what you do is pick one of them off and you just stay over there. You don't flounce off back to your open-top Rover and go back home. You stay there on the field because the battle isn't over. This is perhaps the end of the beginning phase, but it's certainly no more than that. We now have to win this completely and not leave this. So whoever wins, I will work with them, without any doubt. Thank you.
Well, I've offered myself to work for the party's goals under many leaders, Bolton and Paul Nuttall, Suzanne Evans, Diane James, Steve Crowther, and of course even Nigel Farage. And so I obviously feel the same way as Freddie and Mike. So what Mike said, what Freddie said, I will work for the party, whoever wins.
Just in case you want to leave.
Freddie's not reading his book, is he?
Right, I'd like to call on the candidates to finish the evening with a 2 minutes duration of why you vote for them as leader.
2 minutes.
2 minutes, starting now. Right, if I am looking up to be elected as leader, you know what my vision is for this party is to become
an electoral threat to the rest of the parties. Those Tories, Labour, who's had it good for too long. As a leader, I was bringing reform within the party, a structural reform, a party that's led from the bottom upwards, and the membership have a say in what goes on and how the party is led. And I would reform the NEC. The NEC would become a regional NEC. You've seen the policies I've got there, and I've said from the very start of this that this party needs to change. It needs to change direction, and it needs to get common sense policies. We need to be out there on the street fighting with common sense policies, the policies that people will vote for. People will vote for us if we're out there talking common sense. I believe I'm the person that can do that. I've seen from every angle of the party, every senior position, how the party runs. I know where it needs changing, and I will change it, and I can do that. And if you vote for me, that is what will happen, I can promise.
Right. If you vote for me, then one of the first things that's going to happen is we're going to see tools provided to party members to actually get the job done of trying to win elections, local and constituency elections. You're going to see forum policy, you're going to see policy forum, which everybody is going to be able to participate in. And you will be able to vote on policies in that forum. They will be presented in front of the NEC and the leader every month, so that what you say, what you want to happen in the party, will actually be seen and taken in by the leadership of the party. You'll actually have an ability to communicate with the leadership. We'll have canvassing software, which will enable you to go out, knock on doors, and get in touch with people that actually want to vote for us and support us. We will be a real team if that happens, and we will actually start to claw back our results in elections. What's that going to feel like? In the end, if we get up to 10% again, it's going to start to feel like the good old days. I want you to cast your minds back to midnight on the 23rd of June 2016, and what it felt like at those counts. Probably some of you were at the count for the referendum, and some of you may have got up the next morning to look at the result in amazement. I certainly didn't expect us to win, but I worked so hard at it because I was determined to be able to look at myself in the mirror in the morning and say I did everything that I could for my country. I gave it every chance to actually regain its independence. So remember that feeling of winning. That's what we're aiming for. That's what we can achieve again. It's going to take time and hard work, but I will actually give you the tools to do it and improve our vote share and get there.
Due to who I'll appoint, when I'm in the leadership, you'll get Richard Software too, and Richard too. I ran a computer software house and produced 150 programs. It's called Digital Precision. It was one of the most successful UK software houses there was. It was entirely, I started from scratch. Computer software is a very important means in the future, because nowadays with handheld devices and gadgets, we've got things in our hands which are a lot cleverer than we are in many, many ways. However, that is just one of the aspects. There's much more to winning this battle than just with computer software, important though it is. And I'm fully in favour of it. I'd be astounding if I wasn't. I'm a physicist and a mathematician. I'm analytical in my approach. I'm an accountant as well. I did train with Ernst & Young. I'm good with numbers. I can bandy them as fast as the scoundrels and blackguards in the BBC who've tried to prepare some sort of hidden question and agenda. I'll see through their stuff. But that isn't really the most important thing. The most important thing is heart. And in matters of heart, let me tell you the first hustings I attended. It was in the southwest, and fortuitously, perhaps, I had to wait to upload my application. The hourglass was going round and round, and I had to rush off to Thanet to meet somebody, not Nigel Farage, about funding for UKIP and whether or not they would be prepared to fund if I won the leadership. Then I had to drive over from Thanet, which is in the extreme southeast of the country, right not to Land's End, but to far along in the west, Tiverton in Devon. It meant that as I was driving along the A303, the road that has Stonehenge on its right, as we all know, where people all slow down to have a peep, as I came out of the Stonehenge area, maybe 15 miles further west, I hit the road at just the right time. The sun was coming through trees, and my eyes filled with tears. I've told this story before, so my fellow candidates have probably fed up hearing it, but for you it's new. I had to stop the car, and this is really true, you know, because it reminded me what we're fighting for. A Britain that, this Jerusalem, it's not a religious statement here. We've got to fight for it, we've got to win, we have to do it, there's no one else. Meet the leader. I have the will, I have the power, and I have the determination, I have the courage, I have maybe the stupidity as well to take on this task. As my mum used to say, there's no sense, there's no feeling. Thank you.